Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow. Welcome to Paranormal Yakker. My guest on today's show is Elaine Clayton. Elaine is a teacher of intuitive empathic development, an artist illustrator of several books on intuitive intelligence, and her editorial art includes works for the New York Times and New York Times Book Review. I'll be talking with Elaine about her book, The Way of the Empath, how compassion, empathy, and intuition can heal your world. Elaine Clayton, welcome to Paranormal Yakker.
Thank you for having me. I'm really honored.
Over the years, I've interviewed many empaths on my show, and I've found that because of their open hearts and them being so vulnerable to absorbing the energies of others, they tend to stay away from malls and other facilities where large numbers of people gather. Your book shows empaths how they can protect themselves when in that kind of environment. What, Elaine, do you recommend they do to protect themselves?
I absolutely relate to that. And people in my family, growing up, it was very confusing. You actually have to grow into the awareness that that's what's happening. I remember a little sister of mine, when we went to the movies when we were younger, throwing up in the bathroom. That's how sensitive she was. She couldn't handle all of that energy. It's your friend in a way, because to be overloaded kind of can keep you from being in some places that maybe aren't really great for you. On the other hand, we do have to be out in the world. Some of the ways in which you can protect yourself, first of all, just realize that all those feelings out there are not yours. They're not necessarily yours, though you may feel them and feel them extremely personally. They aren't yours, and you are not responsible for them. Sometimes the ego, especially for an empath, wants to be responsible, wants to rush in and make it better. So you go somewhere, and one of the things you may do, instead of feeling responsible, though, is just connecting in some kind way, in some small way, like saying a kind word to someone. You don't have to fix their life, but you can just be kind. That's a really simple way to enjoy maybe going to the grocery store or some simple errand like that. Another is to just don't be there in a way. Don't be fully, you don't have to lay yourself out to be tortured for every experience. You can kind of visualize yourself in a dome, in a sort of light covered sort of atmosphere around you, so that you go and do the thing you need to focus on and let that be that. I like to say a prayer for everybody. It kind of helps me not be, again, my ego might want to fix everything or somehow think itself as responsible. I like to say, you're off the hook, but try to do something that for the world, anything that I can do where I don't lay myself out there to be completely vulnerable is the word you use, which is the best word. It feels like susceptible, waiting for it, that kind of thing. Let's see, there were a couple of other things I wanted to mention. Oh, here's a really interesting one. Native American animal wisdom, like the idea that when you encounter an animal, that animal is bringing its gift to you, whatever its gifts are, or it's getting your attention. One of the things I've actually played around with is where you be like the fox. So what does that mean? Foxes can be present, but invisible. They're around, but you don't know they're around. Sometimes one runs across the snow and you see it and it's a glorious sight, but really they're not easy to see. So the idea of being a fox and going into a place where there's a crowd and just intentionally not wishing to be seen. You don't have to always be seen. Just go play with that. I think that's fun to try things like that. But mainly it starts with being consciously aware of the fact that these things have an impact on you. And that takes time. I think I was like 22 or something, where I had a great day and I went home and I felt completely upset and felt some turmoil and anxiety. And I sat there and I thought, what's making me upset? This isn't even mine. And then I retraced the day and the things that I encountered, and I realized where I picked it up. But it took me having that conversation with myself to even be aware that that was happening. So that's a big part of it too, right there.
The Way of the Empath shows empaths how they can use mystical, spiritual, and imaginative insight to better understand their place in the universe. Could you give some examples of what you recommend they do to accomplish that?
Imagination really makes the whole world go round. You know, if you think about it, everything around you and everything around me existed in another realm before it was transmuted into this one or created into this one. The chair I'm on, your earphones, the whole thing, all these ideas and visions people had, and then they brought it into material form. Just like we are spiritual and we have a material form to activate and to use free will, that really is the center of everything, I think. So imagination is really crucial to being a happy person. We get conditioned away from that very early on. I know you know the other book that I wrote is about intuitive drawing, Discover the Art of Intuitive Drawing. It's called Making Marks, because I want to get people in touch again with that initial spark we all have to create, where we just intrinsically want to take a blank space and put our mark on it. That's what we're here doing just by being alive. If you're not in touch with that or don't value the imagination, then you don't value your own ingenuity, the miracle of yourself or of others. One of the things I always recommend is just be creative in some way. It doesn't have to be something like a project that you go buy the materials for and everything. That's why I encourage drawing, like, and the way you do it, and I can show you if you want one thing for anyone to do anytime. Just like Picasso said, if they took away his art tools, he would just draw in the dirt with his spit. You don't need anything to be creative. You just need the most simple thing, like something to bring it into material form. So using a pencil and a piece of paper is just so simple. Mostly we can do that. And the idea is to get into a stream of consciousness flow where you're accepting your imagination and yourself as a creator, and you don't think too hard about it. You just create. Some people know what they would go to. I might like to ask you what something is, what creative thing do you like to do? Some people might say, I'd like to sew. I like to crochet. I like to fool around with watercolors. Sometimes people find their bliss with one thing they love to do. You also hear people talk about just going out and running. That's also interesting because it's activating a physical gesture with the body that does make an impact. It's creative too, but they talk about getting into a zone when they do that. And that's the same place, really. You can get there through a physical action like a sport where you don't think too much, or a creative pursuit. So I think that's the main thing. Also, paying attention to your dreams. Dreams, we just dismiss them. We pay no attention to them. I loved it when I taught at a school in Boston, the Atrium School. They were so progressive, and they had a dream dragon in the hallway, so that if you had an overwhelming dream and you were 5 years old or 7 or 8, whatever, we didn't ignore it. You could come in and you could find time and space to express your dream, roll it up, put it in the dragon's mouth, and you could talk about it if you wanted to, but at least there was a place for you to put it instead of ignoring it and being expected to focus on things all day long. When you had something that is really profound, dreams can be so creative, so weird, so seemingly nonsensical, and yet when you start to really spend time with them, they're a beautiful portal to knowing in all kinds of ways. I recommend being creative in a simple way. Don't make it hard, and it should be something you love doing, or at least like doing very much, so much that you might be excited about doing it. And keeping a dream journal. If you don't remember your dreams, you can practice remembering them. You just train yourself, and there are some steps you take to do that. You might just keep a little journal with you during the day, because during the day, if you're tuned in, you notice you get some thoughts and ideas that float in. Instead of ignoring those, or those emotions or memories that float in, jotting a few words down just to revisit upon them. It's like practicing. I don't want to say practicing. Cultivating is more fun. Cultivating that intuitive sense that you have. It's not hard to do, but you have to just decide to do it, I guess.
I love that in your book, you've included in it not only your own wonderful artwork, but you provide readers with methods they can use to tap into their own empathic, intuitive skills through creative drawing and journaling, which you've just expanded on. And I do want to say, as an aside, I have to compliment you on your paintings, some of which I see you have in the background there. Great background. And again, I checked your website and the paintings you do are incredible. And later on, viewers know how they can find out about them. I compliment you. It's really great.
Oh, that touches me. Thank you so much. It just means the most to me for you to say that. Thank you.
Well earned. You feel, Elaine, it's important for empaths to recalibrate their perceptions of other people's emotions. Why do you feel it's important? And how does one go about recalibrating their perceptions of other people?
That's interesting. I think because we're conditioned to see each other in a competitive way, win or lose from very early on. Who gets a gold star? Who has the right answer? Pay attention to me, do what I say. We're very well conditioned not to love each other, but to compete or to at least consider each other candidates for winning or losing. So that's got to be recalibrated. I saw that the Arapahoe County School District, I think they're in Colorado, they decided they didn't want to have their valedictorian anymore, which I don't know if I agree with that or not exactly. I don't know, but I love that their statement was, we think our learners are more than competitors, so they had, to me, the exact beautiful way to where we're headed as we evolve, not to dishonor or not honor each other for our gifts and talents, but just to realize that there are all kinds of learners, especially when you're in elementary school. I don't know that being graded is the best way to help people develop a sense of themselves. You're not really conscious of effort yet, even when you're that young. As you get a little older, 10, 11, 12, all right, you make some decisions. I'm either going to hang out with my friends or I'm going to actually try to study this. But there can be obstacles with that too, because you may just feel not recognized. You may be afraid to tell anyone that you don't get it because it's a shame-based culture. And I think we're getting better. Hopefully we are. In many ways we are. But I think that recalibrating takes a lot of courage because we have to let go of that thing that we so much have been conditioned to hang on to, which is a win-lose dynamic. And I'm not going to completely trash it because sometimes educators might notice someone might learn more because they're motivated by a spirit of competition. It can be done in a healthy way too. There can be a loving way to realize it's a game, it's playful, and to a degree, it's not defining the worth of someone else. So I think that's where I would start. Also realizing that with empathy, when you first asked me, what is an empath? It's really our perception. So let's say that I meet up with you for coffee and I think, hey, are you okay? What's going on? And you just say, no, I'm fine. And I have to respect that you don't either want to talk about it or maybe my perception is a projection. Maybe it's only a perception. Maybe I mean well, but maybe I have to consider that my perceptions aren't always necessarily empathy for the other person entirely. It could just be a perception. And then I have to recalibrate my own perception too. I have to be open to the fact that I don't know always. But that, because really empathy is going to be about feeling and sensing and then not holding on to outcomes too.
Does indeed. Something else that you feel is important, Elaine, is that empaths should take note of synchronistic events and signs. What type of events and signs are you referring to, and what is the importance of being aware of them?
You've never had more fun in your life than when you pay attention to synchronistic things. Gosh, now I wish I'd written all these down right in front of me so I could remember some of the more fun ones that I've had. But here's just one, a very light one. It's not sensational, but often they're unbelievably sensational. You just can't believe it. But my friend texted me and told me that she keeps hearing owls. And this morning, before I even drank my cocoa to read the side of the cocoa cup to see what it looks like, there was an owl staring at me, right on the top of the cocoa. I mean, it was an image of an owl. That was funny to me because she just told me that she's been hearing owls, and then I see an owl right there. It's just like a wink from God or something. So it could be little things like that, or you're singing a song and all of a sudden that exact song is on the radio when you turn it on. How weird is that? or you had a dream about Frank Sinatra. You don't know why. Everyone's talking about Frank Sinatra the next day. Sometimes it can be eerie, like my brother and I love sharing this where, okay, I have one that was, this is astonishing. Okay,
good.
I remember, there was a film and it had Harvey Keitel was in it, and it was like a play on the Jesus Christ Superstar theme. Do you remember that? I can't remember the name of that one. It was a twist on the story of the crucifixion and the whole thing. And I'm sorry to sound so ignorant because I can't remember the name of the movie. And I was laying in bed one night, couldn't sleep, and I was trying to work out the scene where an angel appears while Jesus is on the cross being crucified and removes the nail, from the feet and starts talking to him. And I couldn't remember what that whole thing was and how the twist happened in the movie. I got obsessed with it. I decided to get up because I couldn't sleep and watch TV. I turn on the TV and that exact scene is on because that movie was playing on whatever, the first channel that I turned it on. And so I couldn't believe it, and I watched how it played out, and then I understood. But that is weird. Stuff like that is bizarre. But it can happen as simple as that, where you're thinking of something, then you turn on the TV, and then the same word that you just said is being said, or the same sentence even. Stuff like that. It's very bizarre. I don't know if you've had such synchronicities. Have you had some?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah. Aren't they fun and wild?
It's incredible. Again, we all got to listen to ourselves, see what's going on, and go with that. And what I think is great in the Way of the Empath, you show your readers, you teach them how to see the unseen and welcome the mysteries of life through psychic events and fun encounters. So it's great. You just don't talk about things. You tell people how they could do it. And that's great. That's a definite plus for your book.
I hope it was kind of fun reading, because none of this works, art, creativity, psychic stuff, unless you're having fun. And that doesn't mean the context has to be lighthearted, but you got to have a spirit of, like the child, really open and really full of adventure and wonderment. Wonderment and mirth is really very important.
What advice, Elaine, would you give to an empath who picks up something from a stranger they feel is important for that person to know, such as the person they are with is out to deceive them? Do they keep quiet, or do they say something? And if they reach out, how do they go about approaching that person?
Okay, so let me draw the scene so I can see it. Are you talking about, let's say I'm empathic and I go up to someone, or I know someone, I'm in a relationship dynamic of some kind with someone, and they're deceiving me and I know it?
Going along with somebody, a total stranger, it might be a little bit better with somebody you know, but let's take this scenario, total stranger, you're in a mall or somewhere, so you're going there, and that person is with somebody, and that person they're with, is no good, they're going to deceive them, do something not correct. Do you just be quiet, bite your tongue, you say something, and if so, how could you diplomatically do that? What do you recommend people do? What have you done in this situation like that?
Boundaries are real important, because again, you might know a lot. You got to watch what people do. Just watch. You don't have to necessarily act. That's one of the reasons why I pray a lot. And I'm not saying everyone has to do that or be wired that way, but I know I am, because it's not always my place to be that one. Often that's what happens that causes an empath more trouble than anything, is they think I am the one. I've got to get in there and I've got to create this triangle where I'm the rescuer, that person is a perpetrator, and that's the victim. Well, that's a dangerous triangle, because half the time a victim doesn't want you to rescue them anyway. But however, if it was like where at the exact moment where you thought you actually realized it was coming into fruition and they were about to do something dangerous, well, then you would probably reflexively intervene. But it's very sticky. There's not one answer for that one. That's a very hard one. when, if you ask most empaths, they've been in all the kinds of messes you get in. They have done it. They have intervened. They have gotten in the middle. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. I'm not so sure what the answer always is about that one. I know how to take care of myself. If I don't, nobody else will. No one can fix things for me. So it may be that you carry love with you, within your presence, within your being. You embody that love. Just even your presence often can do the work. It's not necessarily what we say or do. Of course, we know we have to take action for a better world, right? I talk about tikkun olam. We have to take action. You can't be pacifist. You have to acknowledge where there is a wrong and find a way. You notice my way is art. I don't necessarily take to the streets, but I will do art because I think that I can open hearts. Maybe that way is just as powerful as starting a march or whatever. Doesn't mean I won't be in a march at some point. I'm not advocating doing nothing, but I'm just saying how you get involved is going to be very personal. It's going to be based on what your capacity is, based on what you know about yourself and what you're able to do. You got a family of 4 kids under 11. Do you really have time to fix everybody else's problems? You may have a lot of help, and you can, but you may not. You may have to say, I know what my job is, and I can do these things. I can't do it all. So I don't really know. I guess the answer is very ambiguous. It depends on the.
It's very, very telling. It's very good, correct. That there's nothing that's an absolute, because it's always on my mind how an empath would react. Sometimes it's doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. And they have this regret, the remorse afterwards. Well, maybe I should have said something, but who knows what happens if you did. So that's another dilemma, I guess, empaths find themselves in. And as you said, it's an individual basis and sending out the vibes. I like that.
You bring up something really important, though, the horrible dread of when you knew and you could have affected change, but you didn't for some reason. So there again, it depends on the situation. It depends on all of the components. It depends on so many things. You can't really judge others about that, but a person can evaluate, could I have helped more? Was it on me to do more? And I think we really know when it is ours. However, empaths more so need permission not to try to fix, because they tend to get involved in, they could nearly get killed. I remember when I was young, personally, I was involved with someone, partly it was because I was immature and whatever. It took me a real process to realize this person is dangerous. This person isn't someone he was hurt long before I came along. I could get killed here because he's violent or whatever. And it is okay for me not to make myself responsible. Why should you have to almost ruin, a period of your life to get that, though? That's how extreme I was. I felt sorry for someone whose mother died when he was younger or whatever. Well, that's sad. That's really sad. It's so much, I admire people who can be so much more cool about how they see people and know that they're not responsible. I had to learn the hard way. Most empaths will tell you a hard story like that.
That's why you're a good teacher of it, too.
That's another good point. What kind of empath would anyone be if we didn't go through a lot of hard things? I would even say spiritually, it's in your soul chart that if you're an empath and between you and God, you wanted to help people in certain ways in this lifetime, then your whole schooling is going to be, you're going to go through some hard stuff, because nothing hurts more. And I've been that person to say the dumbest thing, I'm sure, when I didn't know because I hadn't gone through it. Like when I taught, when I was in my 20s and I taught little kids and I didn't have little kids yet. How many parents did I make feel terrible because I might have said something flippantly or whatever, not getting it at all? I hope I didn't too much, but I know that in my ignorance, I must have. As much as I don't like some of the worst things I've been through, I really feel it when someone comes to me and it resonates with my own experience. I'm way more able to be kind toward them and to say things truly from the heart and from the gut, from experience.
Should viewers of Paranormal Yacker want to buy The Way of the Empath, How Compassion, Empathy, and Intuition Can Heal Your World, or any of your other books, or learn about your beautiful paintings, how do they go about doing it?
Everyone uses Amazon for convenience. You can go to Barnes & Noble. You might have a local bookstore. My website is ElaineClayton.com. So you can go there and visit me, and you can send me a message through that site. I'm on Facebook. I have 2 pages pages. My page is, whatever I don't know, it's Elaine Clayton. My picture's on there. And then I have an intuitive stream drawing page too, for people interested in doing the intuitive drawing to access their empathic center. I'm on Instagram. I think those are the main ways.
Hi, everyone. I'm Stan Mallow, the Paranormal Yacker. I hope you enjoyed the interview you just watched. To be sure you don't miss any interviews on my free YouTube channel, all you have to do is press the subscribe button on your screen.